Story 1. Caught my wife sending boudoir pictures to another man. I, Ken, age 49, have been married to my wife Jean, age 52, for close to 8 years. For some background, I moved in with her about 10 years ago. I resisted moving in, but over time she talked me into it. Just before I moved in, she wanted to make it clear that has male friends who she will hang out with and without me. To be clear, I'm a bit insecure about this, but I agreed. The very first night I had there, I went to bed alone. I did not understand that, but I didn't make a big stink. A few times she had guys over while I was in bed in the next room. Once again, I didn't care for this, but I already agreed. Fast forward 2 weeks, I was off training at my new job and had to go to midnight shift. One night I forgot my phone at home and a female friend of mine called. She confronted me when I got home. This woman lives 2 hours away, mind you. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, didn't like it. I had to ask, how is it okay that the different guys who all less than 15 minutes away can come here whenever, but I can't speak to a woman on the phone who lives 2 hours away? You might have guessed, hangouts with friends of the opposite sex ended right there and then. Not long after I moved in, our sex life slowed down. We never really had that new connection excitement. Things she would sexually prior to me moving in ended. She likes a very vanilla sex life. We had plenty of arrangements about it. Things just weren't anyway like I hoped they would be. 2 years in, we got married. Was never sure about it, but I have a hard time hurting people. So I went along. We moved to a new house right around the same time we got married. Now just recently, March 2024. My wife went to town for a doctor appointment but was gone all day. I tried calling and texting a few times but no answer. I thought this was odd. I was a little upset, but I got over it. After this, I just noticed some odd behavior. She was just acting differently. Fast forward a few days, she called me from her work phone asking me to bring her cell phone. I told her I would. Now I know people on these things say you shouldn't look at your partner's phone. I'm going to say I disagree. I looked in her text and saw a name I didn't know. I clicked on it to see she was sending boudoir pictures that she had done supposedly for me to this guy, asking if he want to meet up and to think about it. He didn't say anything but did heart the pictures. My heart hit the floor. The pain was unreal. I took her phone and showed her I know what was going on, then left. I started packing my stuff knowing it would be easier since she wasn't there to get in my way. She sent text saying he's just a friend and that it was a mistake, crying the whole time. I wasn't responding. After I grabbed my stuff, I went to my mom's. I spoke with friends, never feeling more hurt and betrayed. She freaked out when she got home to see my wedding band on the table and my belongings are gone. She was losing her mind, telling me she loves me and nothing was going on and it just looks bad. The next day at my mom's, I hurt all day with bouts of crying. At the end of the day, I weakened and called her back saying maybe we can work it out. She was thrilled and wanted me to come home right away, but I waited for the next day. I told her we're going to have to start slow and see how things go. The minute I got there and we had sex right away, ignoring everything I just said. I realize I could have said no, but I was feeling weak. Nothing really changed, like we discussed, sex life still slow and somewhat boring. Life basically just back to the way it was before I caught her. We get into arguments and I have brought it up and her questions is always, why can't I just let it go? Well, now it's been a few months and I started a new job recently. One of my coworkers got his girlfriend a job. After a few weeks, my coworker found out his girlfriend was sending topless pictures to another one of our coworkers. I told my wife about the drama and she referred to the girl as a stupid bitch. I right there and then said, that's exactly what you did. She comes back and says, well, at least my boobs were covered. I said you were in full lingerie and that she started the conversation while the girls did what she did after being contacted. The problem now is I'm having way worse depression and anxiety than when this originally happened. Every time I try to talk to my wife, she asks why I don't just let it go. She'll start crying to the point I'm consoling her. I get no stress relief and I just started to see a counselor and taking different medications prescribed by a doctor. I'm starting to think I should have never come back. I hurt every day. Do you have advice? If you have further questions, please ask. Sorry if this isn't written well. I'm on a phone and my grammar isn't great to begin with. Story 2. Lesbian friend was messing around with BF while I was out of town. I'll try to make it as short as I can, but so many messed up things happen. Basically, I went to uni, in a different city, with my then best friend. We have been friends for more than 20 years. And OFC, we lived in the same flat. I got my first biff the first year of uni, and we've been together for 1 month, thank God it wasn't longer. She kept telling me all her life that she's a lesbian and you boys, and that I should address her as he, him and all that jazz. And I did because I believed her and respected that. We would always go to parties and gatherings together, all three of us, and some friends, and those friends, who at that time were quite new, kept telling me that something was weird, and that they're too close, and let me tell you, I should have believed them and moved on. One time they also kissed while drunk and she kept telling me how gross it was because he kissed like a dog from the second we got back home. I got over it. A while later I went back home while she was still there. They were FaceTiming me while they were together in our apartment and I thought, hey, that's nice that they are so close. When I came back she confessed what she had done. You can probably guess what they were doing alone in that apartment, but that she did it because she's lonely and just wanted love, and in my shock and I told her it's okay and that we can move on. A little while later, after some exams, summer vacation came, so OFC I came back home again and now I had time to think about this issue without stressing about uni and other things. OFC, I realized how messed up it actually was, so I decided to call her and tell her that actually I am still upset and if we can talk it through, and her response was, oh, so this is not a good time to tell you that we're together then? The shock I was in was insane. I started crying and went out to my mother and told her everything, and she told me I was right for feeling this way, and with that power I texted her a whole script of how that response was so unsensitive and what she did is really messed up and that one of us will have to move out of that apartment because I no longer want to see her. Piss. I think they might still be together 4 years later and they 100% deserve each other. Also, I have no regrets. He was violent when he was drinking alcohol and overall a misogynist, but being my first BF I just got over a lot. Never again. And yes, it was super obvious that they had something with each other. I was just in denial. She would always be in his lap instead of me and they would always hug and be by each other while I was looking at them, but they always told me that nothing can happen between them because she's a lesbian. Not. Story 3. My ex had 4 families, fake trusts, and gave me an STD. While still married to me, typing this on my phone that does weird spell check stuff, I had my suspicions. He was supposed to go out of town and he came home early, packed his bag and ran out the door, barely saying goodbye to me or our children. We lived on the 5th floor of an apartment building. I looked out the window and saw him get into the car of a woman I could tell because she had a sunroof and I could see down into the car. The look on the guard's face was priceless. Later I got a phone call from a woman who was very upset. She said she was his fiancée. She said she worked for the airline and found that he was traveling with another woman. The other woman was the woman in the car. Later, following my suspicions, I found a receipt in his briefcase. It was in a very expensive store. I went to the store with my 2 children. One was a toddler and the other still in a stroller. I made up some story about why I needed to know what was purchased. Purchases were quite expensive. I was not allowed to buy clothing for myself. Keep in mind this is in an Asian country. We were expats there. And this was a very high-end store, so they kept handwritten records in a notebook. They looked up the receipt and said, "Oh yes, Mr. Z, he was here with his Thai wife." She looked up at me, waited a few beats, and then her face just fell and she said, "I'm so sorry." I said it's okay, I just thought he was here with his Singaporean girlfriend. The woman at the airline I believe has 2 children with him. The Singaporean women went on to have 2 children with him, and the Thai women had 1 child with him. All are younger than our 2 children. Oh, and then I was walking through a hotel and I caught him having breakfast with the woman he went on the trip with. And then another time I saw them drive past me in his car. I also found a trust document that, by the way, was totally fake that he wrote for the Singaporean women, putting her in the family trust. Keep in mind I hadn't lived in the States for 10 years. I didn't have a driver's license, I didn't have bad credit, I had no credit. I had no money. I couldn't go back to my job because technology has significantly changed. I had an 18-month-old and a 3-year-old. As all this was going on, I was planning to somehow leave. Eventually I packed bags, hid them away, and tried to figure out how to get back to the States. I didn't have access to money or credit card. He had the bright idea one day that I needed to go visit my parents. He bought me a one-way ticket. I figured he was never going to let me come back. That was fine with me. He married the Singaporean women, cheating on her the whole time. I know for a fact he was engaged to someone else for 4 years while they were married. After scamming that woman out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, he basically dumped her. He moved to a different country and now he is married again with 2 children, having never divorced the Singaporean woman. In actuality, I don't believe they were truly legally married because he married her before we were divorced. By the way, it took me 7 years to divorce him. The most awkward dinner I ever had was when our oldest graduated from graduate school. He came back to the States with the women he was engaged to for 4 years while married to the woman he was married to while still married to me. Are you following this? Anyway, she was a very high government official. Very bright woman. I liked her very much. On the way to the dinner, my daughter explained to her friend who was accompanying us. So we're going to dinner with my dad, who cheated on my mom with the woman we are trying to keep secret from his girlfriend who we're having dinner with. Yes, those are just some of the highlights. Ooh, I forgot, when our youngest was 10 months old he wanted to do a getaway to Men Things. We went to Hong Kong. We flew separately because he had a meeting. So he said. He traveled more than 340 days one year, and I finally figured out we flew separately because he was likely doing most of the flight attendants. Anyway, I arrived at the hotel before he did and checked in. The front desk said, "Welcome back, Mrs. Z. I see you and Mr. Z were here with us last week as well." That was the other Mrs. Z. Oh, and he gave me an STD when I was pregnant with. Story 4. Caught my ex cheating, left her, and told her to be out by Monday. My ex was a big drinker and I wasn't. She would frequent this bar close to our place pretty often with friends. I rarely went because I just wasn't a fan of bars or her drinking friends. One night she went out with a couple that I didn't mind that much. I was bored at home, so I decided to head over for a little bit. As I walk in, I see my ex sitting at the bar with the couple. The bar was packed, and as soon as I made eye contact my ex, she had this strange look on her face. She turns to this guy sitting next to her, and he immediately gets up and leaves. I felt something strange right away, but I brushed it off as me being irrational. I stayed for like an hour and headed home. I couldn't shake the feeling I had though, so I checked one of her friends' Facebook page to see if there was any connection that existed between my ex and this random dude. Sure enough, he was friends with one of my ex's friends. I knew his name now and that I wasn't as crazy as I thought. I sat on the information though. The next weekend she goes out drinking again and still had not returned home at 4 a.m. I tried contacting her multiple times and I got no response. I woke up to her coming home at 7 a.m. and jumping in the shower immediately. I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower, and she kept all of the messages with this same guy. Some pretty telling information in the text thread. While she was still showering, I grabbed a fresh pair of clothes and headed to my best friend's house. 20 minutes later, I get a phone call with her going apeshit about me leaving and not saying anything. I laughed at the projection, told her that if she wasn't moved out by Monday, the police would be there to force her out. She wasn't on the lease and her parents lived 10 minutes away from me. That was that. Story 5. The universe exposed my cheating fiancé through a crazy chain of coincidences. The story is remarkable in that it happened before the internet was widely available, in the very early 90s, when the world seemed much bigger. My fiancé, Meg, had one semester left of college that had to be taken as an internship abroad for her major. She chose to go to Belgium for this internship. I stayed back and the plan was that I would set up house, and when she returned that summer, she would move directly in and we would set a date for our wedding. So, while Meg was off in Europe, calling every couple of weeks to check in, the long distance was super expensive back then, sending me postcards and letters, I moved into a brownstone, bought furniture, etc. About 2 weeks before Meg was supposed to return, I stopped into a nearby coffee house that I had noticed down the block, but had yet to visit. To my surprise, I found that my neighbor from growing up in a completely different city, Claire, was a waitress there. We hadn't seen each other since high school, so we made a plan to meet up after her shift for a cup of coffee to catch up. We met and Claire told me that she was engaged as well, to a man, Ben, who was completing his course of study by working on an internship in, you guessed it, Belgium. I couldn't believe the coincidence, and told her about my fiancé, and that they had to know each other. Crazy, right? A couple days later, I stopped in for a cup of coffee and Claire looked extremely upset. She asked if I had time to wait, as she had a break coming up, and that she needed to talk to me. We went outside and she told me that she had gotten a call from her Aunt Sue the day before. Aunt Sue had just returned from Czechoslovakia, and that something very strange had happened. While they were touring Prague, Sue and her travel group had stayed in a local hotel, and the next morning she had run into Claire's fiancé, Ben, in the lobby, with a female companion by the name of Meg. She said that he introduced her as a student from America, that they worked together, but it was very awkward and they both looked scared shitless. Claire said that she immediately called long distance to Belgium, and after several tries over the course of a day or so, got him on the phone. She asked him about the chance encounter and he said he had been kind of expecting her call, and ended up admitting that he had been seeing Meg pretty much the entire time they were in Europe, spending weekends and holidays traveling around with each other. I was floored. Couldn't believe it. I went home and started trying to call Meg at her dorm in Belgium, finally getting through to her late into the night, early morning for her. I point blank asked her if she was dating Ben. I didn't even explain how I knew about it. She hemmed and hawed for a moment, kind of acting like I was crazy for saying something so nonsensical, but when I said that I knew Claire, she dropped the facade and admitted to all of it. So Ben and Meg had a very bittersweet homecoming. Meg got off much easier than Ben, as Claire had already left all of his belongings on the front lawn, from the day she found out, which had been pretty picked over by the time he got back 2 weeks later. I did pick Meg up from the airport. I think at the time I really just wanted to see her face when I told her that all of our friends knew what a piece of shit she was, and that I never wanted to see her again. To this day I revel in how many utterly astounding factors of complete random coincidence went into Meg and Ben, who later married, then later divorced after he cheated on her, being caught. The universe works in incredible and mysterious ways. Edit, removed TLDR and inserted paragraphs to please the masses. Story 6. Married young, ex cheated, stalked me for years, finally got divorced after 8 years of hell. We got married when I was 17, and he was 21. He was shipping off to sea and I was escaping a bad home life. When he came back after his deployment, he wasn't the same person anymore. After about 6 months, he gained weight on purpose to fail his physicals so he'd get kicked out of the Navy. Fast forward a year. I'm working full time, and he is sitting at home, watching anime and drinking during the day, and telling me that he was applying to jobs. I was applying to universities when my laptop died on me. I asked to use his to finish an app, and while doing so a message popped up on his FB. A topless pic of his ex, from her. I was shocked and opened it to find that they'd been dating for a long time, started again while he was at sea in the Navy. He would talk to her and never to me, saying that he never got the time to email. She had sent him a pic because he had said how he missed having big tits like hers to play with, and how mine were just too small so he felt like he was fucking a boy or a child. I confronted him, he made a bunch of pitiful excuses. I had my friends come to the house that day and kick him out while I went to work. He then stalked me for the next few years, and made posts on his FB about how I was a coward. He sent emails and called from block numbers to tell me that a restraining order is just a piece of paper, or that our vows before God made me his property and shit like that. Then he bought a gun, and started telling our friends that if he can't have me no one can. I ended up talking to our friends and told everyone conflicting information about where I was going, and moved states. I deleted all my personal social media accounts and lived in fear for years, watching him continually make memes about how he loved his wife and would do anything for her. It took 8 years for me to finally get the divorce from him. Story 7. I think my wife is cheating on me. What does Reddit think? Yesterday, one of my good guy friends was over at my house helping my wife take care of our newborn, as I work long hours and she needs as much help as she can get. I got a weird vibe from both of them. I discovered some things that just didn't make sense as well. I figure a good way to prove me wrong would be to be a complete ass and check the text between her and my guy friend on her phone. Some of the important texts say, him, I just never want to push it on you. Her, 'cause you're a good guy, I am just trying to not give in and jump you, 'cause I kinda feel guilty. Him, I am not really a good guy, and I would die before I would do something you don't want to do. Him, what are the chances of today happening again? ECT. ECT. These texts were sent yesterday, so if it is happening I think it is fairly new. I just want to know if I'm paranoid, or if my assumption is founded. I have never been in this situation before, and I don't know what to do. And a bonus question. How wrong was it for me to check her cell? This is the first time I've done it, but I never wanted to be that douchebag untrusting husband. Edit, I plan on talking to my wife tonight when I get home, immediately after I talk with my friend. Thanks for all the advice. Edit, about to be on my way home after a couple meetings. I will be sure to update you all. Edit, I think I need your help Reddit, more than ever. Now I am super conflicted. I decided to take the high road and just ask her. The conversation went something like this. Add a humorous tone to her voice. Me, you and friend are hanging out a lot lately. Is there something I should be worried about? Her, no, me. Are you sure? You know you can tell me anything. Her, yeah. Me, I am just saying you guys are getting awfully close. Her, you and my male drinking buddy are awfully close. Haven't talked to the suspected cheater, but I don't know what to do. She leaves tomorrow to see family, then meet me at my next duty station. This is the worst timing ever. Fuck. Edit. I just had a dinner with the friend, my wife and another friend's family. I kind of mentioned it in passing, but he is freaked out. He has to go do something before he gets home, but we are going to talk. I am going to take more of a direct route with him. I should have this figured out tonight. Edit, I showed the friend this page, and he came clean. He said a couple weeks ago it happened while they were drunk. They ended up kissing and cuddling, but no sex. He said yesterday he brought her lunch and they ended up kissing and whatnot. This perfectly explains the text. He was freaked out that I knew, but thanks to you guys I was more cavalier than I expected to be. My wife doesn't know that I know. I don't know what my next step is, but at least I know what happened. I want to thank you for your input, it helped me out more than you know. Edit, I am going to go to bed. I will update, answer questions in the morning after PT. Thanks again, guys. Edit. I woke up this morning and my wife had sent me a message over Facebook, mature, right? That basically says that because of my long hours and stress at work I have been a shitty husband. A bunch of you said she would do this. She also thinks that me wanting her to take pride in herself and learn to better herself every day is giving her self-confidence issues. It does mention what she did, but most of it is how I'm a horrible partner. It is going to be another long day. Final edit. Okay, Reddit. I just went home to try to talk to my wife. I spilled my guts about everything. I told her the trust is gone, and I'm willing to try to bring it back up. I let her know that getting that close to this guy was wrong, and lying about it was worse, and that a FB message was not appropriate. I told her that she needs to talk to me. She responded with, "I don't feel comfortable talking about it," and acted like nothing ever happened. She left about 15 minutes ago to her family's house. I won't see her again for about a month when I get home to my family for Christmas. This sucks. Other than that, I have had the best advice from this thread, although I think I am missing a culture reference with the whole lawyer, Jim, delete Facebook, join credit union. Thanks again. Hopefully sometime apart she can figure out what she really wants and realize she needs to talk to me. Story 8. My wife cheated on my. I need some perspective, please. I'll try to keep this as short as possible and keep out details that aren't needed. By pure accident I was signed into my wife's Google account. Went to check a text from my cousin, but it was her account instead. I found and read every text regarding the whole thing from the very beginning. It started in early November. She posted an ad on Craigslist to have NSA, no strings attached, sex. I had a planned business trip in December and she was planning this all to happen then while I was out of town. She posted 2 different ads. The first one was to have sex with a couple and threesome. That never happened. The second ad summarized, written as it was. You would come into the house. It would be dark. You would go into the bedroom and have your way with me. I want to be abused, used and left satisfied. I want it rough, slight choking, slapping my ass, etc. Confirmed 2 different men fucked my wife. I know she performed oral sex on them as well. She sent and received many nude pictures with many other men and women. In some of the texts she says this would be ongoing thing as I usually leave for a few days every month or every other month. This was the first time. We have only been married a little over a year. We dated 3 years before getting married. She explains to some of the men that she has only had boring sex with me for the last 4 years. After I found out, and recorded everything, saved web pages, screenshots, took notes, etc. I took a shower because I felt dirty and disgusted. I then confronted her about it. She didn't deny anything. Says she still loves me and that we can work it out. She's willing to sacrifice anything to make it work. I packed up my stuff and left. Right now I'm living at my dad's. My gut instinct is to get my own place, wait a few weeks to clear my head and then file for divorce. I'm disgusted by the whole thing. All I can think about are the details in some of the texts. My imagination is getting to me. My parents are the only ones who know as of right now. My mom agrees with me and thinks I should just leave. My dad, having experienced being cheated on as well, is telling me to wait a bit, clear my head, talk to her, and see what happens then. Reddit, I need some perspective from you. I need advice from people who don't know me. Please tell me what you honestly think. I'm 30 and I feel like my life is fucking crushed. All of the plans we had, house, kids, career. I feel like that has all been taken away from me. Edit #1. I'd like to thank you all for the advice and the comments. It is helping me a lot. I'm going to a doctor today to get a full STD test. She's making it hard for me though. I do love her, more than anything. At least I did. I'm just so sad, hurt and angry. But she really wants to work it out. Sorry, I'm not looking for pity. I need and appreciate your perspectives. Edit #2. I'd just like to thank everyone again. It has been 24 hours now since I made this post and I feel a lot better about my decisions. I'm still reading all of the comments and I appreciate all of the PM people have sent. I feel so hurt, empty and angry right now. I miss my dogs and I'm trying to see if I can afford to get an apartment this weekend so I can get them back. Right now I'm removing my name from all of our accounts. I'm separating everything I can from her. Thank you again for all of your advice and perspectives. It has made things easier for me. I'll post another update soon. Update. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice, comments, and everything else. Second, I need to explain something to everyone. You always read how people find out about their spouse or GFBF cheating and the immediate Reddit hive mind is to lawyer up, hit the gym, etc. But you need to know it is not as easy as that. This is the person I've loved for a good chunk of my life. The love I have for that person doesn't just immediately go away. I will say my love changed on a certain level that I can't explain. With that said, it has been 6 days since I found out. I've talked to her multiple times and we've talked through text and through email and also in person. It is very hard to throw away your entire life that you've built with someone. To throw away all of the lifelong plans you had together. Career, house, kids, etc. Also, I can tell she actually regrets it. I know she is sorry, but I can never trust her again. I'll always wonder whenever she gets a text or whenever I leave out of town for a few days if she'll be fucking some random guy again. I just cannot live with that for the rest of my life. I deserve better. What I've done, found my own apartment. I move in tomorrow and get my dogs back. Sold my car. I'm very sad about this, but I can't afford to keep my science payment. So things are starting to look up. I don't want anything we bought together or anything to remind me of her. I'm basically moving into an empty apartment with only a couch I got for free from my work and my computer desk and chair. I'll just slowly start buying things, which now I can afford without my car payment. She cries when we talk and it makes me sad. I'm sad for our broken relationship and I'm also sad for her because I feel like she really does regret it all. This has been the most difficult thing I have ever had to deal with. I feel like I have two paths in front of me that will affect my life forever. On one path I can take her back, give her a second chance. That will then fork into either her doing it again and me regretting the decision, or it will fork into us having a great marriage forever. The other path is me moving on with my life and not looking back. It is hard to know what decision is the right one. I wish I could see myself 20 years from now and be able to tell. If I knew without a doubt that she would never hurt me again and that our marriage would work, I think I would do it. So there you have it. Thanks again for all of your support, Reddit. Me typing all of this out and getting it off my chest is some sort of therapy and it makes me feel better. I'm not looking for pity or anything, just telling a friends about life. Edit. I just wanted to thank everyone again for your responses. I received tons of PMs that I am still reading, but I promise to read every comment and PM, although I don't think I'll have enough time to respond to them all. One thing I've learned from all the PMs I've read is that I am not alone and cheating seems to be very common. The situations all differ, but it seems the emotional damage is almost always the same. Thank you for sharing your personal stories with me. They really do help. Right now I'm just taking it day by day and I hope my real life karma turns around soon. Story 9. Spouse, 29 years old, admits to cheating with my 30 years old best friend, 30 years old. 2 days ago, my spouse of 5 years, together for 10, admitted to 2 occasions where she cheated with my best friend of 15 years. The first time was several months ago. The second time was less than a week ago and they were caught by his wife, also a friend for 15 plus years. It was also an emotional affair, as they've gotten very close in the last 4 to 5 months. Just before this admission, I had an overdue talk with her about me being uncomfortable, at times, with the closeness of their friendship. She claims that there was no reason she did this, that both occasions were drunk and stupid mistakes. I pointed out that this wasn't 2 isolated incidents, it was months and months of hidden, unfaithful behavior. Even after the first physical episode of cheating, she chose not to walk away. She claims that there are no relationship issues or other problems that drove this behavior. I have a really hard time believing this. You don't cheat for no reason, and the why question is really messing with my head, even if I know it's mostly irrelevant in the big picture. I'm also having serious doubts that this was the first time she's cheated. She's had male friends at work that threw up some red flags, but obviously I didn't act on it. We're both independent and gave each other space to have our own lives, at least, that's how I used to view it. Instead, I may have given her enough rope to hang herself with. My best friend is dead to me. While it would be incredibly satisfying to seek out a fight or some kind of revenge, I doubt it does any good in the short term or long term. As for me, my emotions are still incredibly raw, but I don't see how I can live with this. I'm an independent person and I'm pretty closed off, but my wife was the one person I let in. These people formed virtually my entire social group. We were incredibly close. Now I'm looking around at my life and it feels like scorched earth. There's nothing left. We have no kids, thank God. We own a house in a growing market that could sell for $100,000 over the mortgage value. We have virtually no other debt. We're both staying in the house for now. Her downstairs, me upstairs. It's so hard to think clearly. Every thought is interrupted by an alternating torrent of anger and crushing sadness. I don't think I can live with this, but I don't want to call it quits in a cloud of anger and realize later that I should have taken more time. On the other hand, I don't want to wait too long and be influenced to stay by loneliness, depression, and attrition. How do I choose a path forward? If I leave, what do I need to start getting in order? TL. Dr. Wife cheated with lifelong best friend. My whole world has been shattered. How and when do I make a decision to leave, and what do I need to get in order? Edit. If divorce is where we end up, I'd prefer to avoid lawyers if possible. We're on equal footing financially and I'm not interested in legal financial vengeance. I understand that if she wants to get lawyers involved, my hand will be forced. But I'm also way out of my element here, so feel free to lay out the rationale for lawyering up in spite of my thoughts. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and hit that subscribe button to follow Cheating Love Stories for more amazing videos. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.